All right, guys. Hey, this is Jeremiah with the Jeremiah Show. The next guest I have on right now is about to tell us about her son who had passed away. And you. Okay, so can you tell us your name?
Shay Parodi,
And can you tell us where you're from?
Navarre Beach, Florida.
And what was your son's name?
Nicholas Parodi, and we called him Nico.
And can you just tell us a little about him?
He was 21, and at the time of his accident, he had a 9-month-old son named Elijah, and he was planning to propose to his high school sweetheart, the mother of his child, that weekend.
And what, if you don't mind me asking, what had happened?
He was on his way back from working in Panama City for the week, and him and the driver had spent the night before partying and hanging out with my other son in Panama City. And Nico normally drove, but he wasn't feeling good. I'm guessing he was hungover or maybe coming down with something, but he wasn't feeling good, so he opted not to drive. And the driver I don't know if Nico was asleep and didn't notice it, or if he did know, but the driver had taken some Xanax, and he still had marijuana in his system as well. And when they were about 45 minutes from the shop, the driver, according to the Florida Highway Patrol, for 40 miles was all over the road, and 8 people called and reported his driving. But I'm told that by the driver, that my son was asleep the whole time. And the driver, because of the Xanax and the weed in his system, it made him tired. And he finally fell asleep at the wheel and ran off the road and tried to get back on the road. And he rolled their truck, and my son was thrown out of the truck.
Well, I'm really sorry. Where were you when you got the phone call?
I had gone to Publix to pick up some lunch from my office. My son and I worked for the same company, and I had gone inside to grab our lunch, and when I came back out to my car, I had a missed call from the driver, and so I called him back, and he told me that they were in an accident and that they were life-flighting my son to Sacred Heart Hospital in Pensacola. And I asked if he was okay, and he yelled back and said, I have his mom on the phone. She wants to know how he is. And they yelled back that he was stable. So instead of just going straight to the hospital, I went 5 minutes back to the office and dropped everything off and told them that I was going to the hospital. And, the whole time I'm thinking my son is stable. So, I called his girlfriend, who was on her way to meet him at the shop to pick him up. It was a Friday. And I called her and let her know and told her to meet me at the hospital. And so I found out because the driver called me. And he told me that he just fell asleep, that he didn't mean to.
And do you still have contact with his friend?
No, he's currently in jail, waiting for trial. He never called me again to say I'm sorry or anything.
I mean, I mean, I couldn't even imagine. I mean, I lost my son as well, but I mean, my son he was just a baby. It was nothing, you know, it was nobody else's fault.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm sorry you lost your child.
you know, thank you. You know, with everything that's going on right now, I couldn't even imagine him being alive, to be honest with you. He had heart problems, and he had about, I want to say, like 9 surgeries, heart surgeries, before
Wow.
he passed away. He only got to go home for about a week. But you know, with the whole thing with the coronavirus stuff and happening and all that, I couldn't even imagine him being alive. Which, you know, it's hard to say because, you know, that's my son. But if he was alive right now, I wouldn't even be able to see him inside the hospital because they probably have so many roles. They had a lot of roles when you know, he was here and there wasn't a coronavirus.
Mhm.
Have you got any help since the coronavirus? I mean, since your son's passing. Sorry.
What do you mean by help?
Like, I know that you're on the Facebook page. That's where we met. But like, have you got, like, you know, counseling or therapy or anything like that?
No.
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 How is your if you don't mind me asking, how is your other son taking it?
He's been angry ever since, and he goes to work and he functions, but he stays high. He smokes weed, and he's high 24/7. I think that's his way of medicating, because he was with them the night before and the morning of. Nico and the driver spent the night with my son in Panama City. They had their hotel that they were staying at while they worked out of town, but they would go hang out with Blake. And, you know, my sons were very, very close with each other. And so they spent a lot of time together, even though they were working in Panama City. They still would hang out with each other when they were off of work. So he struggles with it. I think he said he knew that the driver was fucked up, and he still let them leave.
Do you think that your son blames himself?
I'm sure he does.
I mean, the only reason why I asked is because I've watched a lot of shows. I don't know if you noticed, when you're on the Facebook site, people always post their little videos and stuff. I've talked to a bunch of other people who have lost their sons, and there's a lot of other parents out there who say the same thing. Like, you know, my son blames himself, or, you know, my daughter blames herself. But in reality, it's really not their fault. Everyone makes their own decisions, and that's kind of like the hard thing that, you know, they don't want to hear.
Right. And I've told him that. I know Nico knows that Dustin probably shouldn't have been driving, and I think Nico just did not feel good. I did talk to my son the morning of the accident. He called me and asked me if I could take off work and go with him and my other son, Blake, to pick out an engagement ring. He wanted to propose to his girlfriend that weekend. And he said he wasn't feeling good. And I asked him if he wanted me to make him, I mean, he was 21, but he was very much my baby. And I asked him if he wanted me to make him a doctor's appointment. And he said he just wanted to wait and when he got home how he felt. You know, they were going to make the drive, and he was hoping he'd feel better. So maybe he was just hungover. I don't know. I'll never know.
I mean, it's like something you really can't blame yourself. I mean, I can't speak for your situation. I could only speak for mine. I know when I got the phone call about my son, I was at work. And the only thing that I know that I suffered a lot, like wishing I could go back in time is taking time off work to be at his side every day.
Right.
Like,
but you had to work.
I had to work because, one of us out of the two of us had to work. It was very draining. Don't get me wrong. My job at the time was, they were very supportive. They helped us out. I can't, stress that enough. But I just kept, for my situation, I kept hearing the doctor say, he's going to be okay. They're just, hiccups. I mean, it went from that for like, I don't know, 6 months, I think. And to the point where they were like, yeah, he's not going to make it. And I got the phone call on my end saying that, hey, I just got a call from the hospital. They said, she was crying, they said he's not going to make it. And, I kind of felt like, maybe you heard him wrong. Maybe you only hear the bad. Maybe you don't hear what they're really saying.
Right.
So, yeah, so I called the hospital and they said, hey, look, he's not going to make it. So, I had to leave. They told me to leave, right. My job was like, hey, just go, go be with your son. But, people people don't understand like how much, it is on a person, no matter how old your child is. When you lose your child, there's always that thing in your head, what if I did this, what if I would have done that? In reality, there's nothing you could have done.
Yeah, well, I know my son told me that the driver, Blake told me that they were partying and shit. And he told me that the guy was drinking while he was working. And I told Nico that I was going to fire him. And he begged me not to. He said, please don't do that. I'll get it under control. Don't fire him. Just don't do that to him. He's a hard worker. And I should have fucking fired him. And my son would still be here.
I don't think you could really put it on yourself. It's just one of those things where you want to put it on yourself because you're a parent, and I'm right with you. Again, I always put a lot of stuff on myself, just because I have 2 other kids. I mean, and the hardest thing that I had to see was watching my 9-year-old cry over his little brothers, and why, and I didn't have the answers to tell him. Who has that kind of answers? There's not
right.
There's not one person on this earth that could be like, I have all the answers. There's nobody. So it's just one of those things where I can't stress enough that you can't really blame yourself for what happened. And it's a shitty situation. It really is. And it every time I go on that Facebook page, it breaks my heart seeing everyone's story because it's like, man, why am I on this page? This is so depressing. But you want something to fall back on. You want that comfort to knowing that there's somebody else out there that feels your pain, or maybe not your same exact pain, but a pain that you can relate to.
Right. They understand.
Yeah. I mean, how was your support around you? Not just, I mean, I understand that you're a parent and that you have to be the support, but what about the support that was around you? How was that?
Well, I mean, everybody tried to do what they could. Everybody was, the only thing that pissed me off was my sister. She came up to the hospital. Right after we got to the hospital, they took us in this little room, and I should have known then, but I didn't. I thought I was waiting to see my son. And they came in and told me and my son's girlfriend. And then I stayed with him for a few hours. I was with him. And I had to leave because my daughter was in school. She was a senior in high school, and she was going to be getting out of school soon. And I didn't want her to hear it from anybody but me. She was very close with my son, and Nico was very close with Blake, but Desiree and Blake are not close with each other at all. And I wanted Blake was on his way home from Panama City. Him and his girlfriend didn't live here, but Nico and his girlfriend and the baby all lived with me and Desiree. So I left him just so I could get home and tell her. I didn't want her to hear it from anybody else. And as I was leaving, my sister and her fiance were walking up, and my dad was coming from the other direction, and I just was trying to get out of there. And my boss, the owner of the company, both owners of the company that my son and I worked for, were there. And I was just trying to leave. And one of them said, I don't want you to drive. And I said, I'll be fine. I've got to get home to my daughter. My son already knew. Blake and I had already been on the phone through everything, and he already knew that Nico was gone. But Desiree had no idea. And I was trying to leave, and my boss didn't want me to drive, and he kept saying it over and over, and I was like, what the fuck, which is fine. And I looked at my sister and I said, can you fucking drive me home? Can somebody just take me home? And so she drove me home in my car, and it's about a 55 minute drive from that hospital to my house. And it felt like it was so much longer because she couldn't drive, and everybody was upset, And I made it home in time, and I got out of my car, and her fiance pulled up behind us, and she said, do you want me to stay? And I said, no, I have to tell Desiree. Let us be alone tonight. And she looked at me, and I'm obviously bawling my eyes out. And she looked at me and she said, well, you're going to have to find a way to get over this because you have other kids to think about. And it was the most fucked up thing for her to say that to me right then.
I can't say I understand 100%, but I kind of do. And what people don't know is that you have other kids and you love your other kids, and that you would do anything for your other kids just like you would for, the kid that you're mourning over. But, that's still your kid. That's still your son. And everyone deserves time. The kids deserve their own space, their own time, and you deserve your own space and your own time. And, for somebody to say that is just is disgusting. I know.
Yeah, I couldn't believe she said it. Like, I had just lost my son, a few hours before that, because I stayed with him for a few hours. But for her to just say that to me, I wanted to slap the shit out of her. And I told her, just go fuck yourself. Don't fuck you. And she said, I didn't mean it like that. And I told her, I said, just get the fuck out of here, go home before I fucking slap you or something. I was so mad. And she apologized and she left. But other than that, everybody has been very supportive. March 1st was a year, and I obviously still struggle. And everybody's been really supportive. I mean, to the best they can. They don't, for me, I don't talk to anybody about it unless they've lost a child themselves. Because unless you've lost a child yourself, you cannot possibly understand. So that's why I have never gone to see a therapist or a counselor, because unless they've lost a child, they can't understand. Now, I do see a psychiatrist for medication.
Which is totally normal. So, and that's another thing I want to put out there. A lot of narrow-minded people are out there, and they'll say, well, medication is bad, depression pills are bad. Unless you're really, depressed and, you've had something traumatic happen to you, shut up. Like, you have no idea what you're talking about. You have no idea what you're talking about. I mean, I know as a child, I'd come from, in my DNA, I've come from parents who are severe depressed all the time. They've had mental breakdowns. I have a biological mother who I don't talk to because she's afraid that I will chew her out, or face the facts. But when I was younger, I suffered from depression. It wasn't until I had my oldest son, had kind of got control of it, because I had to, because I didn't want him to suffer the same way I did as a kid. But again, you're gonna hear all the naysayers saying, everyone's depressed, and that's probably true. It's part of life. You're gonna get depressed, you're gonna get mad, but there is people out there who are more depressed than others, and who need the extra help, and it is okay to get the extra help.
Oh yeah, I mean, I take a ridiculous combination of medications every night, but I would not be here if I wasn't taking them.
Yeah, there was probably a time when I was younger where I didn't want to be alive, and I was blessed, that I didn't do anything stupid when I was younger, because if I did, then I wouldn't have the chance of being the father that I am and meeting the people that I've gotten to meet.
Right.
And a lot of people don't
Well,
understand that.
I don't want to be here anymore, but I stayed because I have 2 other kids, and I don't want to put them through anything else.
I when my son Alexander, when he first passed away, I didn't want no one to talk to me, because I felt like there's nothing in this world, even if you've been through it at the time, even if you've been through it, there's nothing that you could say to me that's going to make me feel better. I wanted to hit everybody. I wanted to yell at everybody. I mean, I have some pretty good friends out there too that that stayed with me, who didn't say nothing because they didn't know what to say. So I mean, and those are the people that sometimes you want them to say something, and the only thing that they can say is, I'm here for you. But that's not what you want to hear. You still want to hear more, even if they can't tell you what you want to hear, because let's put it this way: either you want to hear something or you don't want to hear something. And then when you want to hear something, nobody in this world can tell you what you want to hear. It's just not.
Right.
I know when my son passed away, my fiance had a lot of anger, and she probably still does. I mean, it's normal. But we just celebrated he passed away a year ago, so we just celebrated that in March. It's like, we didn't really celebrate it, but at the same time, it's my oldest son. He died like right the day after, like midnight after my son's birthday, so we kind of had to celebrate, in a way. But I remember that my fiance was arguing with my mom, like saying, you're gonna hear like people on the show. You'll probably hear it more than once. I have more than one mom. I have my stepmom, I have my adopted moms, and I have my biological mom. At this point, my fiance was talking to my adopted parents, who I love very much. But, she was like, you guys don't come over here. You guys don't see how we're doing. We're right here. We live on the same property, just on a different house. You guys can tell us, how do you guys feel? Because, I think at that moment she felt like she was just drowning. Like she couldn't get out of it. And it took her a little bit to get help. She is getting help. But, it just felt like we're sinking over here. No one's helping us out. And it also, she started calling my parents out, hey, when Jeremy's sister was in the, when their kid was in the hospital, you guys went and seen them. And when our kid was in the hospital, you never seen them. And they were in the hospital at the same time, down the street, 2 different hospitals. How come? There wasn't really any answers that I could recall. Besides, Jeremy's mom doesn't, Jeremiah's mom doesn't like being in the hospital. And to me, I didn't say nothing, but I was really, I was pissed off, because no one likes to be in the hospital. Nobody ever in this world has ever said the hospital is a fun place to go. I can't wait to go to the hospital. If you're in the hospital, something happened, obviously. You're either sick or worse. But I kept picturing, if one of my kids, when they get older, if their kids are in the hospital, that's still my family. I'm still going to be there. So she had every right to be angry, and you have every right to be angry It's just, it's what we do with our life. We can't let it take over. If we let it take over, then, we're not doing our kids justice. We're just, we're just falling into a trap. I mean, that's what I believe in.
Right.
With my two other kids, I want to see them grow up. I want to see them graduate, and I want to, teach them, life sucks, then you die. That's a real thing. The only thing you could do now for, enjoy what life you have left with your other kids. I mean, it's shitty to say, and, and the hardest thing that I remember is moving on. Like, how do you move on? And people don't realize, you don't ever move on. You're going to have your good days, and then you're going to have your bad days, and you're going to have a lot more of your bad days than you are your good days.
Right.
I mean, it's just facts, but don't ever feel guilty because you're having a good day. I've done that, where I'm like, oh man, I'm having a really good day. Look at my kids playing, and then I just sink right into depression because I start thinking about him, and I'm like, this ain't right. He should be here. And he should be there, but I don't want my other two kids to feel like I didn't show them the love growing up because, my other son passed away. That's not fair to them.
Right.
And I mean, I can't really give you any advice per se because, I mean, your kids are older than my kids are. I mean, you've been a parent longer than I have. The only thing I can say is, just try. Your other kids are still here. Make the most of it. Let them know that you still love them. That's what I try to do with my kids every day. I tell them I love them. I give them a kiss. And that's what I'm going to keep trying to do until the day I die. I mean, that's the only thing I can do.
Well, after Nico left, Blake immediately moved home. He came home. He came here. He came straight here from work because he was working in Panama City too. He came straight here, and he never left again. He goes to work every day, and he went and he got all his stuff and moved it back here. But he has not left me, other than to go to work. He's always here with me. Today, he went and played volleyball on the beach with one of his friends, and it's the only thing that he's done since the accident.
So would you say that he's still kind of obviously in a funk still?
Oh, I think so, yeah. He's very angry. I
mean, he in a sense, like I said before, he has every right to be angry. That's what I said about you. You have every right to be angry. I have a right to be angry, But I think as a parent, I think you just got to show him that you love him. I mean, I think that's the only thing that you can do. I mean, he's an adult. He's going to do...
Oh, I still kiss my kids when they leave and tell them I love you. I kiss them at night before I go to bed and tell them I love them. And, I mean, he's fixing to be 21, and my daughter's 19, and I still do that. I've always done that with my kids.
And that's all you can do. I mean, there's nothing... that old saying that parenting never came with the handbook, it doesn't, because every parent has a different situation. There's not one that's exactly the same. It might be pretty similar, but never the same.
Right.
I mean,
it's just really hard to raise somebody from a child and watch them grow up and turn into a man and then have them taken from you.
Yeah, I totally understand, but at the same time, I can't totally relate. I mean, my kid was a baby when he passed away. I could tell you that when
still your baby, though.
Yeah.
I mean, no matter how old my kids are, they're still my baby.
100%.
I mean, Nico is very much my baby. He still called me every day, clock me in, clock me out.
I still, we make me an appointment. We set me up a bank account. I did everything for him.
That's exactly what.
As a matter of fact, today Blake has a bank account that he never uses. So because they're closed by the time he gets off of work, and they're closed on the weekends. So I use USAA. And so I said, do you want me to open you an account with USAA? And he said, yeah. So I called them to do it. And of course, they're like, well, he's over 18. He has to do it. And it just put me, I was like worried, like, is he able to do this? Because I've always done this stuff for them. But of course, it was fine. He got on the phone and he took care of everything. But, like with Nico, I did everything. I did everything for him. So it was
he was the mama's boy.
Yeah, very much so. And I had a different relationship with him than I have with my other two kids. I love them all equally. They're all my babies, but it was a different relationship with him, and it was a huge loss to no longer have that.
Yeah, I think most parents that have more than one child have that one kid. Like when I was at work, and I had people telling me like, you could always talk to me, this and that. We got into a debate at work, we asked, does everybody have that one favorite kid? I said, yes, I believe everyone has that favorite kid. I said, because, the parents who adopted me, that your son right now, the one that you're describing, that's my brother. He's totally a mama's boy. He will do anything for her. Where I'm more like, fuck that. I'm not doing that shit.
That's exactly how Blake is. He's not a mama's boy at all.
And that's okay. You don't always have to be the favorite kid to be loved. You still love your kids equally, and that's the real thing. Like, I mean, my older brother, I named my kid partially after him, my youngest. Or now my youngest, middle. It's really hard to describe now.
Your middle child.
Yes, my middle child. My son's name is Tyler Anthony. So, I was telling you, I got two different families, basically. One he's named after one brother from one side of the family, and the other side of the family, the other brother. And to me, they're both the spoiled ones. They're both the ones that pretty much get whatever they want. Anthony probably works a little bit harder than Tyler does, but, I wanted a kid who I could just dump everything off on him. But he's not that kid who I was picturing him growing up. I mean, I now with Alexander, the one who passed away, when going back to where I was at, I was telling everybody, well, he was my favorite kid, and they're like, well, why would you say that? And I'm like, well, he's the only one that had a struggle. My other two kids won't have to struggle. They get whatever they want. They don't know what fighting is, and they won't have to as long as I'm around. Where Alexander there was nothing I could do. He had to fight to live. Every breath he took, he had to fight for. Every surgery he came out of, he had to fight for. So, I mean, he's probably the one that would have been daddy's boy or mommy's boy. The other two,
he would have been more independent.
Yeah, exactly. My oldest, now he's from a different relationship, but my fiance has been with us ever since he was a baby. But, he's pretty much independent himself. Like, he could play by himself. He could do anything by himself. Where the middle child, he wants his older brother with him. But a lot of people don't understand that they may not call it the favorite child, but I'm a realistic, and I'll just tell you how it is. It's the favorite child. You might love everybody the same, but he's the favorite child.
Yeah, you get it. Exactly. Nobody understands that. I can't tell that to anybody because they automatically think that I don't love my other kids the same, and that's not the case. I love them all so much, but no. He was always my favorite. I fought so hard for him his whole life. He was a horrible teenager. He was horrible. he got into legal trouble all the time. I can't tell you how many tens of thousands of dollars I spent on attorneys for him. I mean, I fought for this kid for years. And then one day it's when his fiance got pregnant. Once we found out she was pregnant, everything changed for him. He didn't do any of the dumb shit anymore. He grew up. He got a job and he worked hard every day so she could stay home and raise their son. Of course, they still lived here, and I wanted them to live here because I'm that mom that doesn't want my kids to leave. I love having my kids here. I love being able to kiss them goodnight every night and, see them every day. And I had that with him, and I could see his son every day, and that was so important to me. And then he left. And about 9 months later, his girlfriend comes to me, and she didn't come to me. I had to pull it out of her, but she told me she was moving back to Texas to be with her family. So not only did I lose my son, but I lost that relationship with my grandson as well. I get to video chat with him and everything, and they do visit, but it's not the same. He's not growing up with me.
Exactly, and you want the other half of you, the part of you, there because you know that that's his kid.
Well, he's all I have left of my son. Of course I want to be around him.
Yeah, that's all normal feelings, though. If you could tell everyone else out there, the danger of everything, like what to watch out, the signs and stuff, what would you tell them? You don't want no one to see you doing it because you'd probably be embarrassed if you have.
I would tell them not to take any medications that aren't prescribed to them. Don't do drugs. I don't think weed is that big of a deal, but everything else is. That guy, the driver, was not prescribed Xanax. He bought them from somebody and took them and ruined my life and took my child from me because he chose to do that.
Because their beliefs, and that's okay.
I don't. It's just
if somebody else believes in God,
it's like drinking and driving. It's the same thing. You don't do it.
Yeah, maybe do not do that. I want there to be God because every time I want to be able to see Him. Consume something that you're not supposed to consume. You're putting somebody else's life at risk.
Right. And, young people think they're so invincible and that nothing will happen to them. My son had no idea he was going to die. He was asking me to take off work to go with him and Blake to pick out an engagement ring for his girlfriend of 6 years so that he could propose to her that weekend. He had plans to propose that weekend. So he had no idea this was about to happen to him. You have no idea when it's your time.
I recently went to church just to give it a shot. Maybe it was going to be right. You have no idea when your time is. They start saying so don't make it. I disagree with. So then I'm like, don't end your life before you actually get to experience life.
Yeah, don't get in the car with someone if they
not for me.
Even smoked weed. I mean that's one of his charges.
Help them out. Even if just
DUI because of the Xanax and the weed in his system. Weed is still for us, even if it's legal. It's not legal to get fucked up and drive. Alcohol is legal. It's not legal to drink and drive. You don't get fucked up and drive somewhere. You don't get in the car with someone who has. I mean, this accident happened at 11 o'clock in the morning. I think we just learned to live with it, and I'm still learning.
I mean, there can't be people. I personally wouldn't call it an accident. An accident is something that you probably talked to, or that I've talked to, who have lost a kid. A mistake. Who says that? But when somebody else, over it. That's not a thing. It takes, I got, that I'm not over. Behind the wheel. It's not. That's different. Then the laws. The rules.
When it's your child, and I couldn't imagine losing a child as a baby. I was so
You're putting your own life at risk. But more importantly, you're putting other people at risk because I was scared to leave them in their crib because I was so terrified of SIDS. And I did not. Well, I don't drink at all. Even with my baby for wine once a night, like I would maybe around Christmas or something. Every 30 to 45 minutes after I've had a drink. I don't drive after I take my medication and make sure they were still breathing. I'm not supposed to. So I can't imagine what you went through losing a baby.
Somebody else is drinking. And I might have one, but I'm not going nowhere. Thank you for your kind words. A very slim chance that I am drinking. So when I do drink, I'm doing it because I'm already home. I'm not going nowhere. I don't plan to go anywhere. I say it, but something I just got to deal with. I can't stress that enough. And people are going to be like, well, how do you deal with that? You don't deal with it. We've already established yours. You don't deal with it. Don't take medication. Just that that can get you messed up. Put a cover over it and just don't do it.
Right.
Don't put your life off. Put it right back on so somebody else's life. When no one's around, that covers up. This is real life. Our time to breathe. When there's nobody saying these things because we're getting paid to. Nobody's around. We will vent. You're not do our things. We just nobody else. And that's just all we can do. It's just putting a band-aid on something. It's not permanent. It could have been prevented. You could fix your car with duct tape. It's not permanent.
Yeah, the whole thing could have been prevented. My son would still be here. If I would have fired the guy, my son would still be here. If Blake one of the things that does give me hope is the fact that they did finally arrest the driver. It took them 11 months to finally make an arrest. I caught them twice a week, every single week. And the Xanax is until they finally did something. They were going to let this go, and I was not willing to let it go. I told them what was in his system, and I knew because Blake was with them that morning and the night before. So I already knew what was in his system. Blake told me. Blake found his bag of Xanax at his place in Panama City. And that's how we knew he had Xanax in his system. And I told them. And they said, well, we have to wait for the tox screen to come back. And that it took so long. It took like 6 months. And then they sent the results off to the University of Florida to be tested at their crime lab to check the levels of the drugs in his system. And they were going to just let this go, and I was not willing to let it go. I was not going to let that happen. Like, that driver is going to pay for this one way or another. And because I worked there, I was human resources. I handled everything. I knew where everybody lived because I had access to all their personal information. I had his address.
The doctors.
I have a gun.
Doctor, and
it took everything in me not to go blow this motherfucker away.
He's like, look, dude, I've tried to do everything.
That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to kill him. I wanted him dead. And
that I could not stand. I'm like, oh, it's her fault. There was doctors.
I didn't want to do that because I would go to prison, and who's going to take care of my kids? At that time, my daughter was, she had just turned 18. So to me, you're still a kid, Blake was still 19 at the time. And so while I wanted him dead and I wanted to be the one that did it, I also didn't want to be taken from my kids and have them lose their brother and then, in a sense, lose their mom too. So it was very hard for me to control myself.
Exactly. Well, and the other thing is, and this might not sound great, and maybe you don't want to hear it, but the kid who is responsible, who got arrested, he has a mom, and it's not her fault what happened. I don't know how
exactly. I don't want to.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't want to take him from his mom.
Yeah, he deserves to pay for the crime, but the mom doesn't deserve to pay for the crime. So taking life is kind of one of those things where like, the kid fucked up majorly. Like, there's no doubt about it. He deserves to be in prison, rotting away. And
well, he was 28, so he's not a kid. I mean, this is a man. He knew better.
But like you said, though, if you're the mom, that's always your baby.
Well, to make it worse, 4 years before the accident, his sister was killed by a drunk driver. So their family has already lost a child.
Yeah, so the mom would
He
already
knows
suffered
how
that.
right, and he knows what it does, what it's like to lose a sibling because of a drunk driver. So why the fuck would you get behind the wheel when you're high?
Maybe, I mean, I don't know if it was me. At least I want to think if it was me, like if I was in your shoes, maybe those are some questions that maybe you'd want to ask him. Like I can't, I know that you're just saying, why would he do that, but now that me hearing you say it, it's like, but maybe that's something that you should ask him, or maybe somebody should ask him, like, the fuck were you thinking?
Oh, and I will. When I get to read my victim impact statement, I will ask him that, because it's insane to me. If you lose somebody that way, why would you turn around and do that to another family? Why would you get in the vehicle and drive like that? So his mom has already lost a daughter.
And
while I was
she's gonna lose a son now too. I mean, I feel for the mom. I mean, again, like, you're a mom, I'm a father. We've lost kids. She just lost two.
Course.
Right there. I mean,
of course. And now her son is in jail. He's got a good lawyer. He got the best lawyer he could get around here. But I mean, chances are he's still going to go to prison for a while. And when the local news place posted about it on Facebook, I followed it because I wanted to see what people were saying. And there were his friends on there saying he doesn't deserve this. His mom just had a stroke, and
yeah, you can't pay attention to what his friends are saying. Though, you can't even listen to that because they don't know what the hell they're talking about. You know what you're talking about.
They were messaging me. They were messaging me, telling me how fucked up I was and what a piece of shit I was.
Yeah, well, those type of people just need to stay in their own lane.
Well,
about their lives.
His mom, after the accident, his mom had a stroke and is living in a rehabilitation place. His parents are divorced, but apparently he moved in with his dad and was living with his dad. And now they're saying how sad it is for his dad because his dad doesn't have the money to put money on his books to make sure he has extra food in there. So then I felt bad for his dad because I would never want to be in that position, And I feel bad for his mom because she knows what's going on and there's nothing she can do about it. So not only have they literally lost a daughter, but now, in a sense, they're losing their son too.
Exactly. The only thing you could do is honestly just, live the rest of your life the best that you can.
Well, I do feel bad for his parents, but I don't feel that bad. You know what I mean? Like, no, I'm still going to make sure this happens.
You're still
and
human.
I'm still going to make sure he pays for this.
No, absolutely.
But I do feel bad for his parents. I mean, I would hate to be in their position, but, it's pretty fucking sucky to be in my position, too.
Yeah, that's just, something that people need to hear. That's kind of one of the reasons why I'm kind of doing this whole thing is because there's always more than one side of the story, and your side of the story is obviously way more important than somebody else's side of the story. But I hate to do this to you. I really am going to have to cut this pretty short here.
No, that's fine. My phone's about to go dead on you anyway.
Okay. Thank you so much for being on here with me. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I know.
Thank you.
I know it's not easy coming on and telling people your story, especially to random people who will hear this, and hopefully, they could get, hopefully kids hear it and go be like, hey, I don't want to be in that guy's shoes. I want to be better, and hopefully it helps at least one kid. If we can help one person, one teenager, then I think that this is all worth it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for taking your time to talk to me. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
All right. I look forward to seeing your post on Facebook. Have a good night.
You too. Good night.